Welcome to Zoe Stories. I just found out I'm 8 weeks pregnant. The morning sun filtered softly through the sheer curtains of my bedroom, painting the walls a warm golden hue. I lay in bed, tangled in my own thoughts, heart pounding with a strange mixture of excitement and dread. My name is Alex, and for most of my life, I've been living a double life. On the surface, I'm a simple 28-year-old office analyst, quiet, precise, and completely ordinary. But behind closed doors, I explore a part of myself that few people ever see. I'm a crossdresser. It started as a curiosity, a playful experiment during late nights when the apartment was silent. The thrill of transforming into someone else, of seeing myself in a way the world would never expect, became an addictive escape. Initially, it was harmless, a few dresses, some makeup, and a pair of high heels that made me feel alive. Over time, though, it became something more profound. Crossdressing was no longer just about appearance. It was about expressing a side of me that had been suppressed, a side that longed for freedom, beauty, and attention. But living this double life came with challenges. I had to be careful, extremely careful. The thought of anyone discovering my secret, especially Isabella, my girlfriend of 2 years, filled me with a cocktail of fear and exhilaration. Isabella was the center of my life, warm, intelligent, and fiercely independent. Our relationship had always been honest on the surface, but there were truths I'd never revealed, secrets that could shatter everything if they came to light. Today, though, things were about to get complicated. I had woken up with a strange feeling, a flutter of unease in my stomach that I couldn't shake. At first, I tried to ignore it, attributing it to stress or maybe the leftover fatigue from last night's work session. But a sudden decision led me to the bathroom, and before I even realized what I was doing, I had taken a pregnancy test, more out of curiosity than expectation. The results stunned me. Positive. My heart skipped. I stared at the tiny window in disbelief, gripping the counter so hard that my knuckles turned white. 8 weeks pregnant.
Me.
How was this possible? The rational part of my mind was screaming questions I couldn't answer.
Was it a mistake?
A faulty test? But deep down, a shiver of truth ran through me, mingled with panic and an inexplicable thrill. I sank onto the bathroom floor, trying to process the revelation. My mind raced with fears and possibilities. How would Isabella react? Would she understand? Would she love me? Or would this destroy the fragile balance we had maintained? And then, a stranger thought crept into my mind, something I had never considered before. What would it mean for me, Alex, the crossdresser who had carefully compartmentalized my secret life? Would this change everything? Could I even navigate this new reality while holding on to the parts of myself that I cherished in silence? The apartment was quiet, almost too quiet, as I tried to regain composure. I glanced at my dresser, at the neatly folded dresses and the small box of makeup tucked away on the top shelf. The temptation was strong. Even now, with my world suddenly shifted on its axis, a part of me longed to escape into the familiar ritual of transformation. The soft brush of powder against my skin, the delicate art of contouring, the click of heels against the wooden floor. It was a comfort I couldn't deny, a tether to my identity that refused to loosen. I could hear the faint hum of the city outside, indifferent to the chaos unfolding in my mind. My phone buzzed with a message from Isabella. Running late this morning. Don't wait up Facebookinicus. Relief and guilt mingled in equal measure. Relief because I had a window, a few precious hours to think, to prepare, to reconcile my two conflicting worlds. Guilt because I was already planning to dive into my secret persona, knowing that every second spent in that identity was a second further away from honesty with the person I loved most. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I made a decision. I would embrace this morning, not hide from it. I would dress, transform, and lose myself in the version of Alex that the world never saw. But there was a new weight now, a shadow looming over my private sanctuary. The knowledge of pregnancy added layers of fear and urgency, complicating every brush stroke, every choice of outfit. I was no longer just Alex exploring a secret thrill. I was Alex on the precipice of a life-altering revelation, balancing desire, identity, and the uncertainty of what came next. As I opened the wardrobe, my fingers trembling slightly, I felt the duality of my existence more acutely than ever. The silk dress I had chosen shimmered under the morning light, calling to me. My favorite heels sat patiently on the floor, a promise of elegance and transformation. And there, on the top shelf, lay the wig I had recently purchased, a cascade of auburn curls that would mask and reveal me all at once. I took a deep breath, steadying my nerves, and allowed myself the smallest indulgence, a smile. Despite the fear, despite the shock, there was a thrill in this morning unlike any I had experienced. This was a new chapter, uncharted territory. And as the first brush of makeup touched my skin, I felt a strange clarity amidst the chaos, a sense that, for the first time in a long while, Alex was fully alive, caught between fear, desire, and the exhilarating uncertainty of what the future held. The bathroom mirror reflected a face in transition, eyes wide with emotion, lips slightly parted in anticipation. Today would test everything: my relationship, my identity, my courage. But it would also reveal something vital: whether I could embrace all parts of myself, even when the world demanded I keep secrets. As the soft brush of powder traced the contours of my cheeks, I whispered to my reflection, a promise to myself: I will face this. Whatever happens, I will face this. And with that, the morning stretched ahead, filled with tension, curiosity, and the undeniable thrill of a secret life intersecting with a reality that was about to change forever. The apartment was eerily quiet, yet every sound seemed magnified: the distant hum of traffic, the faint ticking of the wall clock, even the whisper of wind against the window. I perched on the edge of the bed, fingers brushing against the folds of a deep purple dress I had carefully chosen last night. Its silk felt cool under my fingertips, a reminder of the world I retreated to when reality became too heavy. Today, that world felt both like a refuge and a trap. The pregnancy test sat on the bathroom counter like a tiny, unassuming dictator, its positive mark replaying endlessly in my mind. 8 weeks pregnant.
Me.
The words refused to settle comfortably in my chest. My heartbeat pounded, a rhythm of panic interlaced with a strange, inexplicable thrill. Even now, a small part of me longed to escape into my secret identity, to feel the silk against my skin, the heels elevating me, the wig framing a face no one else would recognize. I slowly pulled the dress over my head, savoring the sensation of fabric brushing against my skin. It hugged every curve in ways my everyday clothes never could, accentuating a version of me I only let out in private. The mirror reflected a familiar stranger, eyes wide with anticipation, lips slightly parted, and posture trembling between hesitation and daring confidence. I had always loved this ritual, choosing the outfit, layering the makeup, stepping into heels. But today, each movement carried extra weight, as if the act itself could expose everything. I sank onto the edge of the bed, slipping on the heels with deliberate care. My stomach fluttered, not just from the pregnancy revelation, but from the forbidden excitement that always accompanied transformation. I adjusted the dress, feeling its weight settle, and stared at myself in the mirror. The reflection was both comforting and alarming. I was Alex, yes, but I was also someone daring, secretive, and dangerously close to being discovered. A knock at the door made my heart jump. My pulse raced, my fingers tightening on the edge of the bed. It was too early for Isabella to be home.
Could it be a neighbor?
A delivery? Each possibility sent adrenaline surging through me. I froze, holding my breath as a small voice in my head whispered, "You can't get caught now." Peeking through the peephole, I saw Mrs. Linton, our sweet but slightly nosy neighbor, holding a small package. Relief washed over me, but tension remained. Signing for the delivery, I felt the thin line between ordinary life and my secret world stretch taut. One wrong move, one stray glance, and everything could unravel. Back in the living room, I caught my reflection again in the full-length mirror. I traced the contours of my face with the tip of my finger, feeling the smooth finish of carefully applied powder, the boldness of eyeliner that made my eyes seem wider and more expressive. Even amidst fear and uncertainty, I felt a surge of pride and confidence. This was me, a version of me the world would never know. I considered texting Isabella, but hesitation rooted me to the spot. What would I even say? Hey, I'm wearing a dress and 8 weeks pregnant. Good morning? The thought made me chuckle nervously, a fragile sound that quickly dissolved into anxiety. Instead, I let my fingers wander over the box of accessories I had carefully collected. Earrings that sparkled in the morning light, a delicate bracelet, a necklace that felt like a talisman. Each piece added layers to my identity, strengthening the persona I had crafted in private. The temptation was overwhelming. Every brushstroke of makeup, every carefully chosen accessory, every delicate heel clicking against the floor reminded me of the power I held in this secret life. Yet, that same power made my heart race. One sound at the wrong moment could shatter the illusion, exposing me to a reality I wasn't ready to confront. I moved to the living room, adjusting the dress and shifting into heels. Each movement felt heightened, charged with nervous energy. The apartment seemed alive, every corner a potential threat or witness to my secret indulgence. I glanced at the window, imagining a passerby catching a glimpse, a neighbor peeking, Isabella returning home early. The stakes had never felt higher. Sitting on the couch, I finally allowed myself a moment to breathe. My reflection in the nearby mirror reminded me of the delicate balance I walked daily between who I was, who I wanted to be, and the consequences of being discovered. The thrill of transformation had always been intoxicating, but today, with the knowledge of pregnancy pressing on me, it was a dangerous lure. I picked up my phone, scrolling through photos of past transformations. Seeing myself in these snapshots reminded me of the courage it took to embrace this side of me. I had survived before, balancing secrets and desires, but today's morning felt different. It was no longer just about pleasure or escapism. It was about identity, secrecy, and the unknown future. And yet, despite every rational thought, I couldn't resist. I adjusted the wig over my head, letting the auburn curls cascade down my shoulders, framing the face that belonged only to me. The heels clicked against the floor as I paced the room, a private runway where I ruled a world no one else could enter. The tension in my chest was sharp, a mixture of fear and exhilaration, but it pushed me forward rather than holding me back. For the first time, the secret didn't feel like a mere indulgence. It felt like survival, a way to claim control in a life suddenly complicated by an unimaginable twist. And as I looked at myself in the mirror one last time before the day truly began, I whispered under my breath, "No one will know. Not today. Not yet." I lingered in front of the full-length mirror, tracing the curves of my reflection with a trembling hand. The silk dress clung to my body, soft yet impossibly binding, reminding me how delicate the balance of my secret life had become. Every morning I transformed into this version of myself, but today, the knowledge of being 8 weeks pregnant added a layer of vulnerability I had never felt before. I wasn't just playing with identity. I was teetering on the edge of responsibility, desire, and fear, all at once. The apartment felt unusually quiet, almost conspiratorial. Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed louder, echoing like a warning. My heartbeat synced with it, fast and uneven. I could feel the excitement mingling with a gnawing anxiety that refused to leave. Part of me wanted to pause, to revert to the comfort of jeans and a hoodie, but the other part, the daring, secret part, pushed me forward. The wig framed my face perfectly, cascading auburn curls that softened the sharpness of my real features. I adjusted it again meticulously, each movement deliberate. I walked slowly across the apartment, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. Each step was a small victory, a rehearsal in confidence. Yet my mind kept drifting back to the pregnancy test. 8 weeks. 8 weeks. The words replayed like a mantra, blurring lines between reality and the fantasy I was living in the mirror. I felt exposed, raw, but also undeniably alive. There was power in this duality, Power in the secrecy, power in the ability to choose who I wanted to be. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch toward me, as though the apartment itself were aware of my transgression. I paused, listening intently. The faint creak of the floorboard above set my nerves alight. A visitor? Or merely the building settling? I couldn't be sure. Every sound became a potential threat, every flicker of light a chance of exposure. The thrill of the unknown was intoxicating, yet terrifying. I returned to the mirror, focusing on my eyes. The eyeliner accentuated them, making them appear larger, more vulnerable. Vulnerable, yes, that was the word. I was vulnerable not just because of the pregnancy, but because this secret part of me could be obliterated in a single misstep. What would Isabella think if she walked in right now? Would she laugh? Would she scream? Would her love for me survive this revelation? Anxiety clawed at me, but it was tangled with the same irresistible curiosity that always drew me to crossdressing. I decided to test the edges of my courage. Picking up a pair of delicate earrings from the jewelry box, I carefully clipped them onto my ears. They dangled, catching the light and adding an extra spark to my appearance. A small, ironic smile tugged at my lips. Even in a moment fraught with tension, the act of beautifying myself provided an escape, a sense of control in a life suddenly filled with uncertainties. Movement in the apartment made me freeze. A shadow flickered across the wall. My imagination, surely. But what if it wasn't? What if someone had come earlier than expected? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. My reflection in the mirror seemed to taunt me, each blink of my painted eyes a silent reminder that my secret life existed on a knife's edge. I walked toward the couch, adjusting the hem of my dress. Sitting down, I allowed myself a moment to breathe, though each breath felt shallow, tense. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old photos of past transformations. Smiling faces stared back at me. Alex, the woman no one knew, confident and beautiful in ways the outside world had never seen. Seeing them made my chest tighten with longing and fear. Those images were safe here, confined to my digital sanctuary, yet they reminded me of the stakes. Today's version of Alex wasn't just an escape. It was a risk. I thought about Isabella again. She was unpredictable in her moods, but she had always been accepting in her own ways. Would she understand this side of me if she knew? Or would it frighten her, the same way it frightened me? And then, a darker thought struck. What if the pregnancy changed everything and my secret life became impossible to maintain? The idea was unbearable. Yet even amidst that fear, the mirror reflected something undeniable. Alex existed, fully and vividly, whether the world accepted her or not. I stood up, heels clicking softly again, and moved toward the window. Peering through the blinds, I imagined the neighbors passing by, completely unaware of the double life unfolding inside. I felt a surge of triumph, mixed with paranoia. One careless sound, one glimpse, and everything could unravel. Yet the thrill of secrecy was addictive. It made every movement feel heightened, every glance in the mirror more precious. A soft vibration in my phone startled me, and I jumped. A text from Isabella. Running late. Don't wait up relief flooded me, but it was tempered by the awareness that I was on borrowed time. Every second alone in this persona was a risk, yet the temptation to continue was irresistible. I adjusted my dress, ran my fingers through the wig, and gave myself a small, defiant smile in the mirror. I had always known the risks of living a double life. But today, the stakes were higher than ever. Pregnancy, secrecy, desire, and fear collided in a way that made my heart race. And yet, the thrill, the pure, intoxicating thrill, propelled me forward. I would not stop. I would continue to transform, to explore, to embrace the part of myself that had always demanded to be seen, even if only by my reflection. In that moment, standing tall in heels and silk, I realized something essential. This wasn't just crossdressing. This was survival. A declaration. A claim on a part of me that refused to be hidden, even as the world pressed in with questions I wasn't ready to answer. And as the sunlight streamed through the blinds, Catching the shimmer of my dress and the curls of my wig, I felt the intoxicating, dangerous thrill of being truly, unashamedly myself, even if it meant walking a razor's edge of suspense and fear. The sunlight shifted, casting long, restless shadows across the apartment. I lingered by the mirror again, running my fingers over the curls of the wig, feeling the silky texture between my palms. Each strand seemed alive, a part of the persona I had spent years perfecting. Alex, the secret, seductive, and dangerous version of me, existed in these small details: the wig, the silk dress, the carefully applied makeup, the heels that elevated more than just my height. But today, the stakes felt different. The positive pregnancy test was a shadow in every corner, a constant reminder that life could never return to its former simplicity. How could I reconcile the thrill of transformation with the terrifying reality of 8 weeks pregnant? Even as I adjusted the dress, feeling it hug every curve, a pang of guilt stabbed my chest. This wasn't just play anymore. It was a delicate balancing act between desire and responsibility, secrecy and revelation. I paced the apartment in heels, each click echoing like a heartbeat against the hardwood floor. The apartment felt smaller, every corner a potential hiding spot for the eyes of a neighbor, or worse, Isabella herself. The thrill of potential discovery mingled with a deep fear. I imagined her stepping into the apartment unexpectedly, catching me mid-transformation. What would she see? A partner exploring her identity? Or someone unrecognizable, someone dangerous, someone alien? I sank onto the couch, pressing my palms into my face, trying to steady the storm inside. My mind raced through worst-case scenarios, each more vivid than the last. Would she scream?
Cry?
Abandon me? And yet, alongside that fear was an undeniable surge of excitement, the same dangerous thrill that had drawn me to crossdressing in the first place. The knowledge that my secret could be discovered at any moment amplified every sensation: the brush of silk against skin, the clack of heels, the soft shimmer of makeup under sunlight. My reflection caught my attention again. I lifted a hand and traced the outline of my lips, now painted a deep, daring red. I felt exposed, raw, but also powerful. The pregnancy added a new dimension to this vulnerability. I was no longer just Alex, the crossdresser hiding in plain sight. I was Alex, caught between fear and desire, between responsibility and temptation, and every decision I made had consequences far beyond the mirrored walls of my apartment. The apartment felt charged with tension. Every creak of the floorboards, every passing car outside, became a potential threat. I imagined someone catching a glimpse of the silhouette framed in the window, heels clicking, hair cascading down. My heart raced with both terror and exhilaration. The thrill of secrecy had always been addictive, but now it was dangerously heightened. The package on the floor called to me, innocent yet suspicious. I tore it open slowly, heart hammering, and found clothes. More outfits, delicate fabrics, silks, and lace. My breath caught in my throat. Someone had sent these intentionally, knowing who I was, or were they just coincidental? The thought of a secret admirer, of someone aware of my hidden life, made my pulse race in ways both terrifying and exhilarating. I held up a dress from the package, running the fabric through my fingers. My reflection in the mirror multiplied the tension. The reflection of Alex in the dress, heels already on, curls framing her face, combined with the new possibility of further transformation. Every nerve in my body was alive, every movement heightened by the unknown. The knock returned. This time it was more insistent, urgent. My breath caught. My hands shook slightly as I glanced at the mirror, wondering how Alex would navigate this. Should I answer? Hide? Pretend nothing was wrong? The suspense was nearly unbearable. Each passing second stretched into eternity, the apartment alive with potential danger and possibility. I realized then that my secret life had become a dance on a knife's edge. Every decision mattered. Every movement was scrutinized by invisible eyes, every heartbeat a drum of tension. And even as fear and adrenaline coursed through me, I felt the same addictive thrill that had always drawn me to crossdressing, The thrill of being seen, of being powerful, of being dangerously, gloriously alive. I gripped the hem of my dress, took a deep breath, and whispered to my reflection, I can handle this. I have to. The shadows in the apartment seemed to lean closer, and I knew without a doubt, the next moments would define everything. The apartment had transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and light. Every corner seemed alive, every sound magnified in my ears. I stood near the window, heels planted firmly on the hardwood, fingers nervously tracing the folds of the new dress I had unpacked from the mysterious delivery. The silk felt like liquid against my skin, soft but insistent, reminding me that Alex existed fully in this moment, a secret world that thrived in the quiet. But the thrill was entwined with terror. 8 weeks pregnant. A mysterious package. The knock that had come and gone but still lingered in my mind. My chest tightened, not from exertion but from the weight of secrets pressing on me. Every instinct screamed caution, yet my reflection in the mirror was a siren, daring me to embrace the persona that was both liberating and dangerous. I twirled slightly in front of the mirror, watching the skirt flare gently around my knees. The movement was hypnotic, a small rebellion against the ordinary life I had been living before the pregnancy revelation. Yet even in this private rebellion, anxiety coiled like a snake in my stomach. What if Isabella came home now? What if someone else had seen me through the window, catching a glimpse of Alex, the woman I had become in the privacy of my apartment? A sudden vibration of my phone made me jump. It was a text from an unknown number. I know who you are. Be careful. My fingers froze, my heartbeat spiking. The silk clung to me, as if sensing my rising panic. The thrill of secrecy had always been seductive, but now it teetered on the edge of terror. Someone new, someone outside these walls, might know everything. I sank onto the couch, heels clicking softly, and stared at my reflection. The eyes that stared back were wide with tension, lips slightly parted in anticipation. Alex was here, undeniably present, yet the stakes had never felt higher. I ran a hand through the wig, trying to steady my trembling fingers. The curls fell perfectly around my shoulders, a mask of confidence hiding the turmoil beneath. The apartment felt suffocating, alive with possibility and danger. Every creak of the building, every whisper of wind against the windowpane, became a potential witness. I could almost hear the echoes of imagined footsteps outside the door, the soft murmur of voices that might recognize me, might expose me. The thrill of secrecy had morphed into a delicate game of survival. I stood again, moving toward the mirror, heels clicking, the silk dress swaying with each step. My reflection seemed to challenge me, daring me to continue despite the danger. I adjusted my makeup, smudging a streak of eyeliner deliberately, a small act of rebellion against the fear pressing in. Even with the anxiety coiling tight in my chest, there was an undeniable rush, an intoxicating mixture of vulnerability, power, and anticipation. The apartment phone rang, sharp and sudden, slicing through the tension like a blade. I froze, breath caught in my throat. Hesitantly, I picked it up, voice barely above a whisper. Hello? Silence. Then, a distorted, unfamiliar voice. You shouldn't be alone tonight. Watch your step. The line went dead. My heart raced, fingers gripping the receiver until the knuckles whitened. Fear and thrill collided in an unbearable knot. Alex had always lived in the shadows, but tonight the shadows were alive, and they were watching. I moved to the window again, peering through the blinds, imagining silhouettes in the street below, eyes that might be following me. The apartment felt like a stage, my reflection in the mirror the audience, and the world outside a looming threat. Every detail, the curls of my wig, the smooth silk of the dress, the clack of my heels, felt heightened, charged with suspense. A small part of me wanted to retreat, to abandon the persona, to step back into jeans and a hoodie and pretend nothing had changed. But the other part, the daring, secret part, was irrepressible. I twirled once more, letting the skirt flare, letting the reflection of Alex in the mirror remind me of power and beauty. Even in fear, I felt alive, untouchable in ways the ordinary world could never understand. And then, movement at the door. A shadow flitted past the peephole, too quick to identify but deliberate, almost daring me to discover it. My chest tightened. I wanted to freeze, to retreat, but curiosity and the irresistible thrill pushed me forward. I gripped the hem of my dress, whispered to my reflection, "No one will see me."
Not yet.
I control this. The adrenaline surged, every nerve alive, every heartbeat echoing in my chest. Alex had always existed in these moments between fear and desire, secrecy and revelation. Tonight, however, the stakes had escalated beyond anything I had experienced before. The silk against my skin, the heels lifting me, the curls framing my face, all were weapons in a delicate game of tension and risk. I knew one wrong move could unravel everything. Isabella could walk in. The mysterious messages could signal someone closer than I realized. The apartment could betray me with every creak. And yet, standing tall, swaying gently in the mirror's reflection, I embraced the thrill. Vulnerable, exposed, and undeniably alive, Alex existed fully, ready to face the unknown, teetering on the edge of revelation, daring fate to challenge her. The first light of morning slipped through the blinds, painting long, golden stripes across the apartment floor. The apartment that had felt alive with tension the night before now seemed heavy with anticipation. Every shadow seemed to linger longer, every sound sharper. My heels clicked faintly against the hardwood as I walked across the living room, the silk of my dress whispering with each movement. I had barely slept. My mind replayed the knocks, the mysterious messages, the distorted voice over the phone. Even now, the apartment felt like it was holding its breath, waiting to see if I would falter, waiting for the moment I might be exposed. The thrill of secrecy had not diminished overnight. If anything, it had intensified, woven into the golden morning light filtering across the room. I moved toward the kitchen, adjusting the dress, heels slightly unsteady after a restless night. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee, a reminder of ordinary life outside this private storm. But ordinary life felt impossibly distant. Alex existed here, in the quiet, in the mirror, in the silk and curls, navigating a world that balanced peril and exhilaration on a knife's edge. The pregnancy weighed on me in ways beyond physicality. 8 weeks. 8 weeks of hidden truths, of delicate risk. I ran a hand over my stomach, feeling the fluttering life inside, a fragile pulse that reminded me of everything at stake. Could I maintain this double life now, knowing another life depended on my discretion, my secrecy, my careful choices? Fear and desire mingled, twisting in my chest with every breath. A soft knock echoed through the apartment. My heart jumped. Morning visitors were rare, and the memory of last night's shadow at the door made every instinct scream caution. I paused, frozen mid-step, heels planted, hands lightly touching the fabric of my dress. Was it the neighbor? Or someone else, someone aware of my secret? Peering through the peephole, I saw only a delivery man holding a small package. Relief washed over me, but the tension did not leave. The morning sunlight cast shadows across his face, exaggerating angles and lines, making him appear more menacing than he likely was. Even in mundane tasks, the world outside seemed to threaten to unmask Alex, to shatter the delicate persona I had carefully built. I signed for the package with trembling fingers, heels clicking softly as I returned to the living room. The silk of my dress shifted with every step, a reminder that my transformation was ongoing, alive, and unyielding. I opened the box slowly, revealing a set of accessories: earrings, bracelets, and a delicate necklace. A thrill ran through me even as the anxiety tightened its grip. Each piece was a key, a tool for transformation, a talisman for a life lived in secret. Sitting by the window, I placed the jewelry carefully, feeling the morning light warm my skin. The apartment was silent except for the distant hum of the city awakening, the occasional car passing outside. The stillness amplified every thought, every fear, every heartbeat. Alex was fully present now, but the tension lingered like a shadow at my back. I looked at the mirror again. The reflection was unwavering, bold, yet vulnerable. My fingers traced the delicate curls of the wig, the edges of the dress, the contours of my painted face. The woman staring back was undeniably me, but entirely separate from the Alex the world knew. The morning light highlighted every curve, every detail, every hint of duality. Then came another vibration, my phone. A text from Isabella. Leaving the house soon. Traffic's clear now. My chest tightened. Soon, the delicate balance I maintained would face the ultimate test. Could I remain Alex, in full persona, without revealing the hidden layers of my life? Could I navigate the morning with the apartment alive, my secret intact, and my heart hammering in anticipation? I stood slowly, heels clicking with deliberate care, moving toward the mirror one last time before the day truly began. Every adjustment of the wig, every tug of the dress, every careful placement of an accessory was a silent affirmation. I could face this, I could endure the suspense, I could be Alex fully and fearlessly. The apartment felt like a living entity now, shadows lengthening, light shifting, the air heavy with the promise of revelation. And yet, in the tension, I felt alive. Fear and thrill, anticipation and desire, danced in the morning air. Alex had survived night and dawn, and she would survive what came next. The apartment felt like it had shrunk overnight. Shadows stretched across the walls, cast by the morning sun filtering unevenly through the blinds. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I adjusted the silk dress one last time, heels clicking lightly against the floor, each sound amplified in the tense quiet. Today was no longer about transformation for pleasure or secrecy. It was about survival, identity, and the fragile thread of trust that held my world together. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from an unknown number. I'm outside. I see you. My breath caught, the silk clinging tighter against my body as if sensing my panic. Someone knew. Someone had tracked me, observed me. My mind raced with possibilities, and every scenario was more terrifying than the last. Could it be a neighbor, a stalker, or worse, someone who had discovered my secret life? I moved toward the window, peering through the blinds. The street below looked empty, mundane, but my imagination transformed every shadow into a potential threat. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye. Alex, beautiful, vulnerable, fully present, yet trembling with fear. The heels elevated me, the wig framed my face perfectly, and the dress wrapped around me like armor. But could armor made of silk and confidence withstand what was coming? A sudden knock at the door made me jump, heels slipping slightly against the floor. It was deliberate, insistent, echoing through the small apartment like a drumbeat of suspense. My chest tightened. Whoever it was, they were not leaving without an answer. I hesitated, frozen between fear and curiosity. Alex. The voice was familiar. My heart lurched. It was Isabella. I froze, palms pressed against the smooth silk of my dress. How could I explain this? How could I let her see the woman I had become, the secret persona I had nurtured in shadows, while hiding the truth about the pregnancy, the messages, the mysterious deliveries? I considered fleeing, but there was nowhere to hide. The apartment offered no sanctuary. Each reflection in the mirrors and windows seemed to watch me, amplifying the tension. The air was thick with anticipation, electric with the collision of secrecy and revelation. I opened the door just a crack. Isabella's eyes widened, taking in the sight before her. My wig fell slightly to one side, the curls brushing my shoulder, and the silk clung to curves she had never seen before. Alex stared back at her fully realized, and I could see the questions forming in her mind, the disbelief and curiosity and something else, a flicker of intrigue. I can explain, I stammered, voice trembling. The words felt inadequate, meaningless. How could any explanation capture years of secrecy, the thrill of transformation, the fear, the pregnancy, the adrenaline coursing through me? Isabella stepped inside cautiously, eyes scanning the apartment as though she expected it to spring to life with more secrets. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, voice low but intense. The question struck deeper than any accusation could have. Fear coiled in my stomach. I wanted to vanish, to retreat into the reflection in the mirror where I felt safe, untouchable. I didn't know how, I admitted, fingers tracing the edge of the dress. I didn't want to ruin everything. The words hung in the air, heavy, fragile. Alex existed in full form, but the apartment felt like a cage, and every second that passed increased the risk of exposure, of judgment, of loss. Isabella moved closer, and the tension intensified. Her gaze softened, then sharpened, reading the duality in my eyes, the fear, the defiance, the longing. "Alex," she whispered, as if testing the name, testing the reality of what she saw. At that moment, another sound shattered the fragile equilibrium, a knock from the door. Someone else. My pulse spiked. I glanced at the window, then back at Isabella. The apartment had become a pressure cooker of suspense, every heartbeat loud, every shadow a threat. "Stay calm," I muttered to myself, though my own words trembled. Every instinct screamed to protect the secret, to hide, to revert to Alex only when alone. But the presence of Isabella and the unknown visitor outside made that impossible. I was caught, exposed in a web of fear, desire, and tension. Isabella's hand reached toward mine, tentative yet grounding. "We need to talk," she said softly, voice carrying authority and care, yet laced with suspicion. The words made my stomach churn, knowing that this conversation could unravel everything I had built in secrecy. The knock became louder, more insistent. My heart thundered. I had to decide: face the unknown visitor, reveal Alex fully, or retreat into shadows and risk losing Isabella's trust forever. The apartment, once a sanctuary, had become a crucible. Every reflection, every flutter of silk, every curl of the wig heightened the stakes. I swallowed hard, letting the reality settle in. There was no going back. The moment had arrived where secrecy and exposure collided. Every decision, every movement, every breath mattered. Alex could not hide anymore, not from Isabella, not from the world, not even from herself. I took a deep breath, gripping the silk at my waist. "All right," I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. "Let's face this." The apartment held its breath with me, shadows and light frozen in anticipation, waiting for the next move, waiting for the moment when all secrets would be challenged, and every thread of suspense would snap. The sunlight slanted through the blinds, soft and golden, but it did little to ease the tension that coiled in the apartment like a living thing. The quiet of the morning felt unnatural, a calm before a storm that had already begun. My heels clicked softly against the hardwood as I moved toward the kitchen, the silk dress swaying with each step, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to share. I paused, hand hovering over the counter, the small delivery package from yesterday still unopened. Every sound from outside, the distant hum of traffic, the occasional footsteps in the hallway, felt like a threat. Someone could appear at the door at any moment. My pulse hammered, my stomach tightened. I pressed a hand against it, feeling the life growing inside me, a fragile reminder that my secrecy now carried consequences far beyond my own identity. Then, the unmistakable knock. Sharp, deliberate, insistent. My body froze. Not a casual morning visitor, not a friendly neighbor. My instincts screamed that this knock carried the weight of revelation. I glanced toward the mirror, catching Alex's reflection, wide-eyed, poised, but trembling under the pressure. The apartment had become a stage, the light painting shadows that seemed alive, each one watching, waiting. I crept to the door, heart pounding in sync with the echoes of my heels. Peeking through the peephole, I glimpsed the same delivery man from the day before. He held another small box, expression unreadable, posture stiff. Relief and suspicion collided. Who was sending these packages? And why did it feel like someone was testing me, pushing me closer to exposure with every small knock? I opened the door just enough to sign for the package, hands shaking slightly. He nodded silently, and the click of the door closing behind him sounded deafening in the tense apartment. The morning sun fell across my reflection as I stepped back, adjusting the silk dress, smoothing the curls of the wig that framed my face. Alex was fully present, but the world outside had never felt more threatening. I set the package on the counter and slowly opened it. Inside were more accessories: delicate earrings, a thin bracelet, and a small envelope. My pulse quickened as I unfolded the envelope, revealing a note. "Be ready. Someone is watching." A cold shiver ran down my spine. The thrill of transformation, once my sanctuary, now carried an edge sharp enough to cut. My secret life, Alex, and the pregnancy, all of it felt dangerously exposed. From the living room, I heard another sound, the faint shuffle of keys in the lock. My breath caught. Isabella. She was home earlier than I expected. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, every corner a potential witness, every shadow a judge. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, letting the silk slide smoothly against my skin as I moved toward the living room. Isabella stepped in, her eyes scanning the apartment. They widened slightly at the sight of Alex, fully realized, wig perfectly curled, dress flowing, heels elevating me in ways that felt both empowering and vulnerable. "Alex," she whispered, voice caught between surprise and disbelief. My chest tightened, every nerve on edge. Before I could respond, another knock sounded at the door, insistent, louder this time. My heart leapt. Who could it be now? My pulse raced. The apartment, once a sanctuary, had transformed into a pressure cooker of suspense, every sound magnified, every shadow alive. I glanced at Isabella, her expression a mixture of curiosity and caution. I don't know who it is," I stammered, gripping the edge of the counter for support. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye again, Alex poised and trembling, vulnerability and power mingled in every movement. I had no choice. The secret could no longer hide in shadows. I walked cautiously to the door, each step measured, heels clicking softly but deliberately. My hand hovered over the knob, ready to open, ready to face whatever or whoever stood beyond. The apartment seemed to pulse with anticipation, every beam of morning light stretching shadows across the floor like fingers waiting to grasp me. Finally, I opened the door, and my heart stopped. A figure stood there, tall and imposing, face partially hidden by a hood. Not a neighbor, not a delivery man. Someone else entirely, someone who had been following, observing, testing the limits of my secrecy. My chest tightened as adrenaline surged. "Alex." The voice was low, knowing, aware. My mind raced. How much did they know? What had they seen? The apartment, my sanctuary, now felt like a trap, every mirror reflecting both my fear and my defiance. I adjusted the wig, tugged slightly at the dress, trying to reclaim control over the persona that had become both my shield and my vulnerability. Isabella stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on my arm. Her presence was grounding, but the tension remained. "Who is this?" she asked, voice firm yet cautious. My pulse thundered. Every instinct screamed to protect the secret, but the apartment allowed no escape. The figure took a step forward, envelope in hand, and dropped it at my feet. The words on it made my blood run cold. "Everything you hide will be revealed." The morning sunlight glinted off the silk of my dress, highlighting every curve, every line, every part of Alex that had remained hidden until now. The apartment was alive with suspense, the shadows deepened, and I realized there was no turning back. I looked at Isabella, her eyes searching mine. "We need to handle this," I whispered, voice trembling but steady. Alex had survived night and dawn, but the morning had brought exposure, tension, and a test of everything I had built in secrecy. The apartment was no longer a refuge. It was a crucible, every sound, every shadow, every reflection a threat, a challenge, a promise. And in that charged morning light, I knew the climax of my secret life was unfolding, each second a pulse closer to revelation. The apartment felt smaller than ever, sunlight streaming through the blinds, yet doing nothing to lift the heavy tension. Every sound echoed sharply against the walls, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the occasional creak from the building settling, each one a potential alarm. I stood near the window, heels clicking softly as I adjusted the silk dress and smoothed the wig. Alex existed fully in the morning light, but the apartment now felt like a trap, every corner holding the possibility of exposure. Isabella remained close, eyes wide, uncertain. Her presence was grounding, yet her proximity intensified the pressure. I could feel every heartbeat, every tremor of anticipation, magnified by her gaze. She had entered the private world I had so carefully constructed, and the tension between us was palpable. Every fiber of Alex, every secret I carried, was suddenly vulnerable to revelation. Another knock at the door shattered the fragile calm, louder this time, urgent and demanding. My chest tightened, fingers clutching the silk at my waist. The unknown visitor had returned, and with each beat of my heart, the apartment seemed to shrink further, closing in around me like a cage. Shadows from the morning sun stretched across the floor, merging with the corners of the room, as if alive, watching, waiting. I hesitated, knowing that opening the door could expose everything, the crossdressing, the pregnancy, the secret identity. Yet leaving it closed could escalate suspicion, draw unwanted attention, and break the fragile trust one had with Isabella. Every choice carried weight, every movement was a risk. Isabella's hand touched mine lightly. "We need to see who it is," she said, her voice calm but firm, eyes scanning the door as though expecting the worst. I nodded, swallowing the lump of fear in my throat. The apartment had become a pressure cooker, each second stretching unbearably, the morning light highlighting every tension line in my face, every curve of Alex in the silk dress. I moved toward the door slowly, heels clicking softly, and peered through the peephole. The figure was there, tall and imposing, hood shadowing the face. My pulse surged. The envelope they had left earlier lay at my feet, a reminder that someone outside had been watching, waiting, aware of everything I had tried to hide. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door slightly. The figure's eyes met mine, sharp and knowing. "Alex," the voice said again, low and deliberate. I felt a shiver run through me, the silk clinging tighter against my skin. The apartment had become a crucible of tension, shadows stretching like fingers toward me, every sound amplified, every heartbeat a drum of suspense. Isabella's hand stayed on my arm, grounding me, but I could see the worry etched across her face. "Who are you?" she demanded, voice steady but edged with anxiety. The figure didn't answer directly. Instead, a small device was held up, a camera, recording, observing. My stomach dropped. Someone had been capturing my secret life, watching Alex in the morning light, waiting for the perfect moment to expose everything. The apartment felt suffocating, the walls closing in, shadows merging with the sunlight. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, Alex, poised, beautiful, but trembling with fear. I adjusted the wig, tugged slightly at the silk, trying to reclaim some control. But control was slipping, the morning sun illuminating every vulnerability. Isabella stepped closer, her hand tightening slightly on mine. "We have to handle this now," she said. The tension between us was electric. The apartment, once my sanctuary, had become a stage for suspense, each second a test of courage, identity, and trust. The figure shifted, stepping closer, and I realized there was no escaping exposure. The apartment, the morning light, Isabella's gaze, the camera, it all converged, a storm of suspense and revelation. My pulse raced, every muscle taut. Could I maintain Alex, protect the secret, and navigate this confrontation without everything unraveling? A sudden sound, the apartment doorbell ringing again, made me jump. The timing was perfect, terrifyingly perfect. My reflection in the mirror seemed to ask the same question I couldn't answer. Do you risk everything now, or wait and hope no one sees? I gripped the silk dress tightly, took a deep breath, and whispered to my reflection, "This is it. No hiding." Alex had survived nights of secrecy, threats, and shadowed knocks. But now, with the morning sun, the apartment alive with tension, and Isabella watching, every choice mattered. Every movement, every word, every breath was a decision that could unravel years of secrecy in a single instant. The figure stepped forward again, camera poised, eyes sharp. The apartment held its breath with me, shadows and light frozen in anticipation, every reflection amplifying the suspense. I could feel the life growing inside me, fragile yet powerful, a reminder that stakes were higher than ever. This was no longer just about cross-dressing, secrecy, or thrill. It was about survival, identity, and the delicate balance of trust and revelation. The apartment was alive, the morning charged with danger and anticipation, and I knew the climax had only just begun. Every second was a heartbeat closer to exposure, every shadow a reminder that Alex's world could shatter in an instant. The morning air felt impossibly heavy, thick with anticipation and unspoken threats. Every sound around me, the distant hum of traffic, a bird calling outside, even the faint creak of floorboards, was magnified, each one a potential signal that my secret was about to be revealed. Alex's reflection in the mirror caught my eye, poised and trembling, and I could feel every heartbeat echoing like a drum in my chest. Isabella's gaze was fixed on me, a mixture of curiosity, concern, and suspicion. Her presence was both grounding and suffocating. The world outside had been quiet moments ago, but now it felt alive with danger. Every instinct screamed that someone, or something, was waiting for me to make a wrong move. The knock came again, louder this time, insistent. My fingers clutched the silk of the dress, the fabric smooth and alien against my skin, heightening both the thrill and the fear. I could feel the life growing inside me, fragile and delicate, each flutter a reminder that this was no longer just about secrecy. It was about protection, identity, and survival. I moved carefully toward the source of the sound, heels clicking softly but deliberately. Each step felt like walking a tightrope, every motion observed, every breath magnified. Alex existed fully in this tense morning light, beautiful, poised, and trembling with vulnerability. The stakes had escalated beyond anything I had imagined, and I could feel them pressing against me from all directions. Through the slight crack of the door, I could see the figure waiting, hooded, silent, watching, almost daring me to falter. The envelope from before sat on the threshold like a challenge, its presence a sharp reminder that someone had been observing me, testing me, pushing me closer to exposure. My pulse raced, adrenaline surging through my veins. Isabella stepped closer, her hand brushing mine lightly. Her eyes searched my face for answers, for trust, for reassurance. "We can't ignore this," she whispered, her voice tense but calm. The urgency of her tone mirrored my own fear. Every second I hesitated was a second closer to my secret being unveiled, closer to Alex being seen by someone who should know. The figure shifted slightly, revealing the camera once again, its lens glinting with intent. My stomach dropped. Someone had been recording me, observing me, and now they were daring me to confront them. The silk dress felt heavier, the wig warmer, every detail of Alex's appearance exposed under scrutiny. Vulnerability mixed with defiance, fear mingling with the thrill of being seen yet remaining untouchable. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my trembling hands. The moment demanded action. I could retreat, hide, try to protect the secret, but each hesitation risked escalating the tension. Isabella's gaze encouraged me, reminded me that I was not alone. Together, we faced this unknown force, standing on the edge of revelation, poised between exposure and concealment. The figure's voice was low, deliberate. "You can't hide forever. Everything comes to light eventually." Each word hit like a hammer, reverberating in my chest. I felt a shiver run through me, the silk clinging tighter, the wig slightly shifting on my head. Alex had thrived in secrecy, but now the boundaries of that world were being tested. I took a deep breath, grounding myself. "I'm not afraid," I whispered, more to Alex than to anyone else. The reflection in the mirror, poised, trembling, alive, was a reminder that identity and courage could coexist even in the most perilous moments. I adjusted the wig, tugged at the dress, and met the figure's gaze with as much confidence as I could muster. Suddenly, a movement behind the figure caught my attention, a flash of something familiar, a shadow of someone who belonged to my world. My pulse spiked. Could it be another observer? Or had someone from my personal circle somehow discovered Alex? The tension thickened, the morning now a labyrinth of suspense and uncertainty. Isabella's hand gripped mine firmly. "Whatever happens, we face it together," she said, her voice a lifeline in the storm of anxiety and adrenaline. The words bolstered my courage. Alex had faced fear before, but now the stakes were higher, the tension more palpable, the thrill and terror intertwined in every second. I stepped forward, heels clicking, voice steady despite the chaos. "I won't hide anymore," I said, every word a defiance against the unseen threat. The figure paused, camera still raised, tension crackling between us like static electricity. In that moment, every detail, the silk against my skin, the wig curling perfectly, the life growing inside me, Isabella's reassuring presence, converged. I realized that the morning was no longer just a backdrop. It was a crucible. Every choice, every breath, every heartbeat mattered. The climax of my secret life was here, and there was no turning back. The air felt charged, almost electric, every sound amplified in my ears. The subtle shift of heels on the floor, the rustle of silk, the barely audible hum of distant traffic. Time seemed to stretch, each second heavier than the last, every heartbeat a countdown to revelation. Alex stood poised, trembling, every inch of her transformation visible, yet the duality of my life pressed against me like a vice. Isabella's eyes never left me. Her hand held mine, grounding yet also heightening the tension. She was both anchor and mirror, reflecting the fear, excitement, and vulnerability that churned inside me. Her presence reminded me of what I was risking, but also of what I was protecting. Every breath I took was measured, every movement deliberate, aware that even the smallest gesture could trigger exposure. The figure outside shifted again, camera raised, eyes sharp and assessing. The envelope earlier had been a warning. Now, this presence felt like a test, a challenge to my courage and secrecy. My pulse raced, stomach tightening. The life growing inside me, fragile and irreplaceable, added weight to every choice I made. Protecting Alex was no longer about thrill or expression. It was survival. "Step back," the figure said, voice low and deliberate. Every syllable reverberated through me, sending shivers down my spine. I gripped the silk of my dress tighter, feeling the texture beneath my fingers, the wig warm against my neck. Alex was fully here, fully alive, but the threat outside demanded a reckoning. Isabella's voice cut through the tension. "Leave us alone," she demanded, firm yet steady. Her courage bolstered me, giving me strength I didn't know I had. Together, we faced the unknown, but the fear of exposure was sharp and immediate. The morning had become a battleground of secrecy, courage, and trust. The figure leaned slightly forward, the camera catching the morning light in its lens. My stomach dropped. This was no longer just observation. It was a confrontation and near revelation, a challenge I could not avoid. Every detail of Alex, the silk dress, the curls, the heels, the vulnerability, was at risk of being exposed. My hands shook, and yet a strange exhilaration coursed through me. Danger had always heightened the thrill of transformation, but this was unlike anything before. "I won't hide anymore," I said again, voice trembling but firm. Every word was a declaration, a refusal to cower under threat. The figure paused, seemingly assessing whether I would falter. My chest ached, heart hammering in my ears. Every second that passed tightened the tension, thickened the air, made the morning feel like it was holding its breath. Suddenly, the figure took a step back, and a shadow flickered behind them. Someone else approaching, unexpected, unknown. My pulse surged. The thrill of suspense and the terror of exposure collided, twisting in my chest. Isabella's grip tightened, eyes wide with alarm. My instinct screamed that this was it, the moment where everything could unravel, where Alex could be fully revealed to the world in one misstep. I felt the life inside me flutter sharply, a reminder of stakes higher than any personal secret. The unknown visitor moved closer, camera still poised, and I realized that nothing could be undone. Every choice I made now, every breath, every glance, carried consequences. The morning, once ordinary, had transformed into a crucible of revelation, secrecy, and fear. Isabella leaned closer, whispering urgently, "Whatever happens, we face it together." Her words anchored me, gave me courage I didn't know I possessed. I adjusted the wig, smoothed the silk, and met the eyes behind the camera with as much defiance as I could muster. Alex was fully present, beautiful, trembling, defiant, alive. The figure raised a hand, signaling a pause, and in that moment, time seemed suspended. Shadows stretched unnaturally, light fractured across the surfaces around us, and I realized that the ultimate test of identity and secrecy had arrived. My pulse thundered, every nerve alert, every muscle coiled, ready for whatever revelation or confrontation came next. Then, the unthinkable, a sudden noise behind us. Something fell, a high heel, a small accessory, clattering loudly against the floor. My heart leapt. The sound echoed like a gunshot, and the tension snapped to its peak. Isabella's eyes widened, mine locked on the fallen item, every instinct screaming that the secret was about to be exposed. The figure's camera shifted toward the sound, lens focusing, ready to capture every detail. My stomach churned. Could I recover before everything unraveled? Could Alex survive the scrutiny, the morning confrontation, the risk of revelation? Every second stretched impossibly long. Every heartbeat, every flutter of the life inside me, every breath was a countdown. The morning that had seemed ordinary only hours ago had become a stage for suspense, fear, and the ultimate test of courage and identity. And then, everything froze, eyes locked, lens aimed, silence thick as velvet. The climax had arrived, tension peaking, and the world waiting for the next move. The morning light fell across us, fractured by blinds, shadows stretching and twisting like silent witnesses. Every heartbeat thundered in my chest, every breath shallow and sharp. Alex stood frozen, silk dress clinging, wig slightly askew from the earlier movement, heels balanced yet trembling. Isabella's hand gripped mine tightly, grounding me in a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity. The figure with the camera lingered silently, eyes locked on me, lens capturing every detail of my vulnerability, every line of tension on my face. My pulse spiked. The envelope, the knocks, the previous messages, they all converged in this instant, the culmination of every fear, every thrill, every secret I had guarded for months. The morning had become a crucible, testing not just my courage, but the delicate balance of trust, identity, and survival. A sudden noise, just behind us, made my stomach twist. The high heel that had fallen earlier lay on the floor, now a symbol of precariousness, of how easily everything could unravel. Isabella's eyes widened, voice caught in her throat. My reflection in a nearby mirror, Alex fully present, stared back at me, poised, terrified, defiant. The duality of my existence pressed against me like an invisible weight, every secret exposed to the scrutiny of unknown eyes. Alex. The voice from the figure outside was low, deliberate. The sound vibrated through me, shaking my resolve. I wanted to retreat, to hide, to melt into the reflection of the woman I had become, but retreat was impossible. The life inside me, fragile yet undeniable, reminded me that stakes had grown far beyond personal fear. Every second carried consequences, each breath a gamble. Isabella leaned closer, whispering urgently, "Whatever happens, we face it together." Her words anchored me, yet intensified the tension. I adjusted the wig, tugged slightly at the silk, and met the camera's gaze as directly as I could. Alex could no longer hide. My secret, my identity, was now laid bare in a fragile, tense confrontation. Then, the unexpected, a flash of movement from the side. A shadow shifted behind the figure, a second presence. My pulse jumped, stomach tightening with dread and adrenaline. Was it a friend? A foe? Someone who knew too much? The camera pivoted instantly toward the movement, and I realized with a cold surge of fear that the next second could change everything. The figure's eyes narrowed, assessing, calculating, waiting for me to make a move. My legs shook slightly in the heels, fingers clutching the silk at my waist. I could feel the life inside me flutter sharply, a reminder that hiding was no longer an option. Alex was fully present, yet every instinct screamed that one wrong move, one misstep, could expose everything. The crossdressing, the pregnancy, the months of careful secrecy. Isabella's hand squeezed mine. "You have to decide," she whispered. "Do we confront them, or do we?" Her words trailed off, the tension unbearable. The silence that followed was almost deafening, broken only by the soft hum of distant morning traffic, the subtle creak of the floorboards, the faint rustle of fabric. I took a slow, deliberate breath, grounding myself in the moment. "We face it," I said, voice steady despite the trembling beneath it. The figure shifted, camera lens moving, capturing the resolve and fear mirrored on my face. The morning air, once calm, now vibrated with suspense, anticipation, and imminent revelation. Suddenly, another sound, a muffled voice from beyond the threshold, made me freeze. Someone else was here, someone who could tip the balance in an instant. My heart thundered, adrenaline surging, silk clinging tighter, wig shifting, heels unsteady. Alex's dual identity, the secret life, and the fragile pregnancy were all hanging by a thread. Every second felt like a lifetime. Isabella's gaze met mine, searching, questioning, resolute. I nodded slightly, letting her know that we were in this together. And then, just as the figure moved closer, the camera lens aimed directly at me, a sharp knock resonated again, urgent, insistent, almost accusatory. The world seemed to hold its breath. Shadows stretched across every surface, light fractured, every reflection amplifying the suspense. Alex stood poised yet trembling, Isabella steady yet tense, the unknown figure calculating every move. And in that split second, I realized everything, the secret, the pregnancy, the crossdressing, was on the edge of exposure. I could feel the life inside me fluttering, sensitive to every heartbeat, every motion, every breath. The envelope on the floor, the earlier knocks, the camera, the shadows, all of it converged in a single, taut moment. My fingers clenched the silk, the wig slightly askew, heels balanced on the edge of revelation. And then everything froze. Silence, tension, anticipation. The camera poised, the unknown presence waiting, Isabella watching, Alex standing in full vulnerability and defiance. The story hung in the balance, unresolved, the climax reached, but the outcome uncertain. Every viewer would be left wondering, would my secret be revealed? Could Alex survive the confrontation? What would Isabella do next? And how would this morning change everything? The moment ended on a knife's edge, every heartbeat a reminder that suspense is unrelenting, identity is fragile, and secrets are only as safe as the courage to protect them.